So it is day 2, and what I'd like to discuss today, something that's been on my mind, is identity. What our identities are, and how it can affect us in a journey of transformation. Identity is a set of beliefs about who we are, how we define ourselves, and the corresponding rules to those beliefs. And we have beliefs about who we are, we have beliefs about who others are, others have beliefs about who we are, and they can all affect our identity. And Tony Robbins talks about, and this is why it's important, is that the strongest force in the human personality is to stay consistent to how we define ourselves, how we define our identity. And that can really result in some interesting behaviors that you might have noticed either with the people around you, people that you might see on media, and ourselves. You might notice, actually, why do I do that, or why can't I do this, or um, how other people think of ourselves can, can sometimes hold us bound to a certain place, or a certain identity that we no longer relate to. So what do we do about that? I've been thinking about this today in regards to being really careful to be aware of our identity in relation to what we say we want in life, in relation to how we say we want to be, to behave, to act, to speak in life. And if we are not where we want to be, or if we're not who we say we want to be, or think we want to be, or feel that we want to be, identity does need to be examined, because it might be old software. If we're to relate the metaphor of computers, when did you start believing that about yourself? Is it something that you was thrust upon you as a child? One time one of your parents or one of your friends as a child said, "Oh, you're always like this," or "This is who you are," and this is, or a teacher, someone in authority to you, said, "This is who you are," and you're the good girl, or you'll never be good at whatever this is, and you kind of took that upon and inside of yourself, and it became part of your identity. And also, there are identities that we create for ourselves perhaps when we didn't know as much as we do now, when we didn't have the resources that we do now, and we have forgotten to address those parts and realize that, much like some software, it becomes outdated, and we need to re-examine, oh, I did that when I was in high school. I took on that identity, and it no longer serves me. It's now holding me back instead of propelling me forward. And that's also the power of identity. Is if you don't examine it, it can really keep you stifled. There is the metaphor about the fleas in a jar, and the fleas can be trained to understand, with the lid, I can only jump so high. And then eventually the lid can be taken off, and the fleas never jump higher than the lid because they butted up against it so many times. They felt like, well, that's all we're capable of, so they never tried again. And there's several metaphors similar to that in real life, experiences that become metaphors. But it's really important, because are we the flea in the jar that we kind of thought this is a container, and it's a limitation upon us. It can be, belief that is limiting us. And so in examining our beliefs of who we are now and aligning them with who we say we want to be, what we say we want to do in life, how we want to show up for ourselves, for other people, when you adjust your identity, get really clear on who that needs to be to close that gap, then we really have something empowering to move with, to propel us forward again. And so in regards to that, and I'm still considering this in terms of where it relates to me and my journey for the next 90 days. But one of the very first steps that I want to look at is my identity, my beliefs about myself, and again, the corresponding rules to those beliefs, what I will never do, what I will always do, who I am. And I think I want to, as well as creating and then conditioning in an identity that serves me, also be flexible and not feel like, oh, I've committed to something. You know, another word that perhaps can be used for identity these days is brands, it's just how others see us or how we want to be seen by others. But is it a trap that we corner ourselves into that then becomes inflexible, or is it something that propels us forward and pushes us forward and gets us to where we want to be, that closes that gap? So the example I would use for myself is, you know, I've had these thoughts about, do I have an eating disorder? Am I a food addict? And I've been very scared of taking on that identity. And it's not, I don't believe that's part of my identity. I believe that it has been a coping mechanism. And so the identity that I need to go beyond that is someone that does have the ability to bring in more healthy coping and processing mechanisms. And I want to also create an identity that's juicy, because that that didn't feel very juicy just then. I'm rambling a bit, so I just wanted to cap off by saying I'm having considerations about my identity, who I need to be. A little exercise I'll have for myself that I'll work on in the next couple of days is, what is the empowering identity that I require to condition in for the next steps in these areas for these things, because clarity is power. Again, another Tony Robbins saying, clarity is power. Know first where you want to go and what the gap is, what you need to do to close the gap, and then take massive action. So that's what I'll be doing in regards to my identity. Anyway, thank you for hanging out for day 2. I will see you tomorrow for day 3. Wishing you all the best. Be hugs and love. Bye.